Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of On the Wrong Lead live. I am joined, as always, by my two wonderful co-hosts here, Mr. Mark Capitan, Mr. Caleb Knight. I got to tell you guys, I'm very inspired, right? I just was able to do the horse racing happy hour with Louis Rabot and then our good friends over from the Notorious OTB, Chase Sessoms and the Sniper. And we covered a pick six in less than an hour with 4 different opinions. So I'm just like, it is possible. It can happen. And before Caleb hopped on, I was talking with Mark, and I was really excited. I'm like, I'm thinking, like, Mark, maybe we're gonna see this thing like the same way. We're gonna get through this real quick. I quickly realized that we do not see this stuff. There might be races that we see similar, but I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough. But you boys were on track today. Caleb, you are in the middle of nowhere part of Saratoga, so please excuse his internet, but your audio is good, Caleb. That's been fine. So, how was being on track today, Caleb?
It was pretty good. Yeah, it was. It seems like the last 2 or 3 years I've been to Saratoga, something weird has happened. Like last year, they canceled the turf stakes races. They didn't just like go off the turf; they actually canceled the races because of the weather. This year, we had a power outage that delayed all the races by like half an hour, 40 minutes. So it's been a peculiar couple of years, but nevertheless, we still had a really good time. It's definitely on the hot side today. It got up to the low 90s, I think, so it was pretty warm. But racing was pretty good. Tough card. Surprisingly, kind of dead there for Belmont week. I guess I know it's a Thursday, but I thought it would still be a little more lively. But the track was definitely on the slow side. But beyond that, it's still great to be back at Saratoga. Had nice weather today, and ended up breaking about even on the day for betting. So no complaints.
Mark?
Yeah, no, I'll kind of echo everything Caleb said. Caleb seems to bring the weird weather with him, or the weird things, or whatever it is. I don't know. I thought it was a coincidence before, but I think now we have enough proof to realize it's all Caleb's fault. But besides that, had a really good day. Actually, I'm kind of stoked for tomorrow. I think we had the man, the myth, the legend, Terry Knight, sort of soften up a couple of people up in Cutwater, so I think we have a really nice box for tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, it'll be another really good day. Hopefully the weather holds out. The weather forecast is changing by the minute, so we'll see what actually happens, and hopefully the rain isn't as bad as I think the last weather forecast I looked at looks like the rain is going to be a little later in the day now. At least tomorrow looks like to be light. There's a chance of lighter stuff, and the heavy stuff is going to be overnight. So I'm hoping all the stakes stay on for Saturday, and maybe you lose the one early race on Saturday. So really good stuff. Really amazingly good cards for both Friday and Saturday though. So whatever type of wager you want, whatever type of player you are, you're going to be able to find spots to kind of attack, which is fun.
Yeah. How did betting go for you today, Mark?
Oh, I was down a little bit, but I was up quite a bit yesterday. So, I had a couple things that I wanted to go after, and I was wrong on the 2 spots that I liked on the day, and c'est la vie.
Yeah, I just need to jump in for a second. Speaking of betting, I had a $10 base pick 3 going in the late pick 3, and 2 singles and then 2 horses in the last leg. And wouldn't you know that both of my horses were the 5 and the 7, both of whom were late scratches. Now we've all been the victim of a late scratch in a payoff leg, and getting a consolation or getting a favorite we don't like. But I've never had both of my horses scratch out through the late scratch. So I go from I stand to make like 800 to 1200, give or take, on that pick 3 to getting a 20x consolation for like $1.88. So yeah, definitely left a bit of a sour taste on that one.
Yeah, I was 3x to the 10, 2x to the 3, and 1x to the 6. And what was funny is I played the pick 6, and I didn't use the 6 in there because I was like, all right, Lane Luzzy, like I'm just like talking myself into things here, right? And then I got bounced out of the pick 6 and played a double into the Morley horse, and then I played a double out of the Morley horse. And on a whim, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna include this 6, right? He looks good on time form. He's playing against the track, but he's like huge number, right? It was paying pretty well. And was lucky enough. I got that home. Which kind of sucks. I'm actually kind of curious. What did 5 of 6 actually end up paying in that pick 6? Because you know what, like maybe I'm gonna regret not using that 6 there in the end. Just $200. I would have had it like 2 or 3 times, so it would have been like $400. Yeah. So darn, that would have been a profitable play, but made enough on the double and everything. But I was just cursing at the air because I lost like $60 on my payout from those 2 horses getting scratched to pay the consies, because it was paying something like I think for my math had it right, it was paying like 260, 270 for 5, and it ended up only paying like 197 or something. So the consi, those 2 scratches took a lot out of that double pool for mine. But yeah, that was a weird race, that last one, because it looked like the turf was just playing the speed all day, and then all of a sudden here comes a Luzzy bomb out of thin air. But interestingly, it was the only horse that really kind of was making up ground too. So I don't know if that was just kind of an anomaly or what, but with the weather coming, who knows how this track's going to be playing if they get hit by weather. So obviously stay tuned. I've already talked for 10 minutes, and maybe that's why we don't get through pick 6s in the time.
I was debating about saying, there's a reason that these things take so long, and it's kind of one of us, but not Caleb or myself. So.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll move things along here. We got a lot of races we're going to cover, right? And we was kind of looking at sequences, like, do we want to cover the dirt pick 6? What do we want to do? I think we're just going to cover some of the grade 1s on Friday's card, and then we'll move into the late pick 6 on Saturday's card. We're going to start here with the Ogden Phipps, mile and the eighth for fillies and mares 4-year-old and up. And we got a field of 7 here. 5-2 on Raging Sea, 3-1 on Candied, 7-2 on Leslie's Rose, 9-2 on Randomized and Tarifa, double digits on the rest. Mark, I'll let you go. Where did you land?
I think this race is pretty simple, and I have a feeling that Caleb sees the race very similar to me. And for me, the race really starts and ends at Randomized. Chance of rain, right? So I think that would move her up. She's the speed of the speed in this race. She should be as loose as she wants to be. She seems like she's always been a bit of a hard horse to keep on the track. The 5-year-old's only got 11 starts, and there's definitely some layoff lines and things there, but if you look back through her pattern, she always needs one off the layoff. And I think that's what she got in the La Troyade. And she got her tune-up race, and then she seems to fire a massive effort second off the layoff. So I would imagine this is the intended race. And as much as we lament Joel Rosario, I think when you talk about jockeys that just certain horses they really fit well with, it seems she's always ridden her very well, seems to really get her, and he's the type of jockey that as much as I think we think about Joel being on closers and being all hands, but he is very good at going to the front end, controlling the pace, paying out a speed horse, and getting him to wire these types of fields. She's 3 of 5 at Saratoga, very much clearly likes the surface, and I just think she takes some wire to wire here. So I think Randomized is a single for me.
Caleb?
Yeah, I see the race similar to Mark, with maybe a little bit less confidence. I don't need to talk more about Randomized, although she would be my top selection in here as well, for all the reasons Mark already mentioned. There's no Torpedo Anna in here to press the pace In fact, the pace actually looks like it might come up a little bit soft. And if she's left alone up on the front, she's a very tough horse to run down. So I do think Randomized is a likely winner of this race. The only other horse, and there's a lot of horses you can make a case for. I mean, yes, Raging Sea can win. Yes, Leslie's Rose can win. I mean, if you really squint, maybe Candied or Tarifa can win. They're not for me, but to each their own. The only horse I kind of wanted to touch on is the number 1, Dorth Fader. And this is a horse that I never really thought wanted to go a mile and an eighth for most of her career. If you look at the pedigree, it doesn't really suggest that's the case. She has gotten kind of short in some of those two-turn races. But watching the La Troen, I mean, she did have some trouble in that race, a lot more trouble than I would say is noted in the comment line, where she was bumped early into the first and steadied into the first turn. And then again, coming into the stretch, she was steadied again and lost some momentum. And it kind of looked like she was just going to fade out the back of the race and kind of be an also ran after that second round of trouble. But she dug in and was actually regaining on Randomized and, even gaining on, Raging Sea. Tax was coming flying late to just miss. And there was a lot of horses. The closers were running. And Dorth Fader's one I thought that had every right to just kind of pack it up and go home after some of that second round of trouble and kind of continued keeping on. I'm still not totally sure about the distance, but I do kind of wonder if, perhaps Dazzling Move decides to try to go with Randomized. Does Dorth Fader kind of set that third, pocket trip, on the fence and kind of get that first run on some of the closers? So she's one who I think is going to be overlooked. Probably the, maybe second longest price in the field. And she might be more on one or two of my tickets. It's kind of like a C play.
Yeah, I think I land in between both you guys, but I agree with you. Randomized is my top pick in here. I think the Saratoga form speaks for itself, and the fact that I think this is going to be a bit of a slower pace, and I think this might be just a repeat of what we saw last year in this race. Got to the lead, was able to set moderate fractions, and won by a head, held off Idiomatic. And you say that there's no there's no Torpedo Annas in here. There's no Idiomatics in here either. I mean, the only other horse that I thought might have a shot in here would be the 5 Candied, and that's just kind of based on, on some of the recent speed figures for this horse. And is another horse that likes Saratoga, right? Hasn't missed the exacta in 3 starts here at Saratoga. So I thought she was interesting here. And I mean, maybe a little curious what her best distance is. Maybe I mean, she was able to win at DuPont, but that was a kind of a soft field, right? And I think she's maybe done her best running going a mile and 16th. I mean, we're talking about half a furlong, so I don't know how much we're gonna split hairs there, but I thought Candide was in here with a shot too, but. Yeah, I don't need any of Raging Sea. I don't need Leslie's Rose. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Randomized ends up taking a bit more money, ends up like your second choice in here. But those are going to be the 2 horses I use here. But yeah, no, I'm Stephen Fox is not in chat, and I can tell because he's not sitting there singing the praises of Raging Sea, who is just all over there. But yeah, I see. Road Warrior agrees with us on Randomized. He says he's gonna be betting the shit out of Randomized. So,
yeah,
Mark, you were gonna say?
If you're talking horse for course, Raging Sea is the other horse for course horse. She very much likes Saratoga. Has done some real good stuff up here. I just think I don't know if it necessarily sets up for her as well, but she's definitely shown that she can fire some massive efforts like she did last time out. So,
anything else in this race? Caleb, you heard Mark say he's singling Randomized. I need you to like be a hawk when he's putting in his ticket. Dude, make sure we don't see any Raging CCs in there or anything like that.
I'll audit the sequence. Don't worry.
She's going to be a very large press wager for me in the tournament. I just unless the track comes up funny.
Yeah. Caleb, you did notice I did you a huge solid, right?
By skipping the turf race, yes.
We're skipping race 10. I actually saw some of our friends. They were sitting there talking about PDT in particular is talking about like the morning line, like what the line's going to be and stuff. Are people just going to bet the German horse? I'm like, dude, like it's a 2 mile turf race. Like who the hell cares? Like it's like, yeah, it's part of the sequence, but like who knows what the heck that race is going to be? But the Acorn,
those morning lines in the 2 mile turf race are really bad. Go on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the Acorn here. We're going to be going 1.125 here for 3-year-old fillies. And another field of 7. The return of Good Cheer, 1-2 on the morning line. You hit 3-1 on Shred the Gnar, and you get double digits on the rest. Caleb, you're Mister. I like to beat chalk whenever I can. Are you going to try and beat Good Cheer here?
I have pretty much every start of her career, and I'm 0 for 7. So no, I'm not. It just seems like, my big thing with Good Cheer is that on figures, she hasn't really been that much faster than her competition. And it seems like, her Kentucky Oaks race did come back pretty fast. And it seems like she's going to get a pretty good setup here. Lacara, Shred the Gnar, maybe, a horse like Look Forward and Scottish Lassie kind of all do their best running on the front or pretty close to the lead. So it just seems like Good Cheer is going to get, a pretty good pace setup here. She's the best horse in the race. She's the fastest horse in the race. I guess some people might look to a horse like Shred the Gnar as kind of the new shooter who's been crushing weaker opponents. And I get that if you're going to try to take a shot against her. But it certainly seems like that's a pretty tall task, to go from what she's been facing to Grade 1 company and the best 3-year-old filly in the country right now. So no, I'm not trying to beat Good Cheer. There's no value in her. Take the single and the horizontals and kind of move on.
Mark?
Going to be actively trying to beat her? No, but I do think that the race is a little bit more complex than what Caleb is kind of giving out. Is she your most likely winner? Yeah, but she's 1-2 on the morning line, and she's a 7 for 7 lifetime, right? The one horse I am a little interested in, and again, this really depends how the track comes up, but we saw that speed was really good on dirt. And especially yesterday, rail speed was really, really good on dirt. I really wonder, somebody like Lacara, can she, if you look at her career, she's kind of had a bit of an every other pattern. I think there's a lot of excuses for her Kentucky Oaks where she kind of got bumped at the start, and then, big field, she got headed at the 8th and kind of stopped. And that oftentimes happens with those horses that show a lot of speed. I really kind of wonder with Lacara if she's gotten a little time off since then, and if she I expect her to bounce back with a much nicer effort. Now, is she good enough to hold off Good Cheer? I don't really know, but I do very much think that if you look at her 2-back fig, she ran a 1:14 on time form. And if you look at Good Cheer's Kentucky Oaks, she ran a 1:16. So they are not as far apart as the odds difference would imply that they are. I think Good Cheer wins the race probably 75% of the time, but I do think that Lacara is a little interesting here.
I bet the house on Lacara last time because I saw the time form fig 2-back and was like, this is faster than anything Good Cheer's run. And I got promptly put in my place. But that being said, I think Good Cheer, 90%, 95% of my money going through that. The only horse I have a little bit of interest in is the 6, Look Forward. And honestly, like, you look at the form and, won the 8 bells, won a pretty nice race there, right? Has won the Santa Ynez. And, they tried 2 turns, and both those 2 turn efforts haven't been great. But man, that 8 bells, that figure came back really nice. That fits in.
A really suspect figure. Really, really suspect figure.
Well, I'm getting 15-1 to bet on the suspect figure here, so I'll take chances on that. But that was really the only other horse I was interested in. But I don't know. I think it's just going to be tough to get around.
I think Look Forward is such a nice filly, but I think she is being repeatedly spotted, and she's not a 2-turn horse.
Yep.
I don't think.
No, she's not. She's not.
I think she's extremely talented, but just Redham Racing, give it up. She's not an acorn horse. Just put her in the test and move on. Come on.
Yep, exactly.
All right. That being said, we'll move on from that race. Race 12, the New York, Grade 1 for fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up. Fortnite is fun, coming in a little bit on the delay. He thinks a 2-4 on top. Good cheer and Chardonnay. So top two choices there. The New York Grade 1 for fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up, going a mile in 3/16 on the turf. And your morning line favorite in here is the 8. She Feels Pretty at 3-5. Just another absolute monster of a horse that just seems to just win and do nothing else but win. I landed on She Feels Pretty obviously as an A. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to kind of go against her. I mean, maybe the only knock you can get against her is her like worst race that she's run in the last year has been here at Saratoga. Maybe you kind of think something like that. But I don't know. I look at this field and I don't see too much of the horses, the American, like 100% American based horses that really scare me. There were 2 horses I thought that were a little interesting. I thought the 6 Beleza here, second time in the U.S., was a little interesting. I obviously won that Aqueduct race on Derby weekend at Aqueduct, and the Brisnet fig came back pretty slow, but the time for fig looks okay. It looks pretty good, and it matches up actually pretty decently with what She Feels Pretty has been running. And I don't want to. This might be more of a good cheer, good cheer kind of thing where we saw good cheer and she doesn't look that much faster than everybody else, but she kept winning. So I have Beleza written down as a B. I also thought the 5 Edict has got a race or two that fit in with what She Feels Pretty has run in the past. And I think you have to kind of watch to see how the track's playing tomorrow. But if the track is playing anything like it was today on the turf, I think the 5 Edict might have a shot at just kind of getting out on the lead. And, we saw those horses that got out on the lead today, actually the last 2 days, run very, very, very well. So I thought the 5, with the pace scenario and, a couple of figures in there that seemed to fit with this group was really, really interesting. But She Feels Pretty is going to be a lone A for me. Caleb, where did you land?
Yeah, unfortunately, having She Feels Pretty and Good Cheer kind of in the same sequence makes it not a super appealing betting prospect. But I do think She Feels Pretty is an extremely likely winner of this race. She's just been really, really good since late last year. I mean, her entire career has been really impressive. I don't really think that she's vulnerable, but I do think she's certainly a lone A for me. If I am looking to get around her, I do think the horse you mentioned, Josh, the number 6, Beliza, seems kind of interesting. Uh, she's been campaigned, in overseas against, primarily kind of some softer competition. When they tried to step her up in, group company a few times, she didn't really respond. I'm not really sure how good she is. I don't think she really beat a whole lot of anything at Aqueduct there, but you do get Flavian Pratt here, and she does have a right to step forward. The other horse, I have 2 horses I want to touch on. Is the number 1, Forever After All. Um, if the track comes up wet or the turf comes up yielding, I mean, I think if you look at what she did on the yielding turf course last time at Keeneland, I mean, she has to move way, way, way up. I mean, to beat that field by 9 lengths, geared down, maybe not a great field, but not a terrible field, and she beat him as easily as you could ever want. So I do think I think the rain's coming more so tomorrow night, so I don't think this will be a huge factor. But if the rain does come earlier, or the forecast shifts, and the turf comes up pretty wet and pretty soggy, Forever After All is one I would definitely upgrade. And the other horse I would kind of upgrade a little bit is the number 4, Miwa. I think this is just kind of maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this is kind of a miss on the morning line here. I don't think this horse should be 30-1, not in this field. After She Feels Pretty, I think this horse could easily be your third, most likely winner, perhaps. She could also be your sixth, but I don't think there's much separating the field after the top one, basically. Miwa is getting a jockey upgrade from Florent Drew to anybody else. In this case, it's Dylan Davis. Making second start off the layoff where she was in the parking lot at Keeneland and broke 100 lengths last and was making a huge run late to, start making up the ground and picking off runners. She was always campaigned longer than this overseas. I think that was kind of a prep race, with the idea of getting her stretched out a little bit. So now gets to go from that flat mile to a mile and 3/16, which appears to be where she's had a lot more of her success over in France. She also handles a soft turf course. So if the turf comes up a little bit swampy, I think she's another one that I'd upgrade. But primarily She Feels Pretty is the horse to beat. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I think there could be some value in the exotics, like the Exacta, trying to work a horse like Forever After All, or especially Miwa in underneath.
Apparently, Matthew DeSantis mentioned me on radio today about betting Rodriguez. I'm gonna have to find a sound clip somehow of this and see. Oh man, Mark.
I'll keep it nice and quick and easy. She Feels Pretty. That's all you need. Next race.
All right, confidence from Mark. All right. Last grade 1 on Friday, the Just a Game. Mile on the turf for fillies and mares 4-year-old and up. And your morning line favorite in here is going to be the 8 Excellent Truth, 9-2 on Kehoe Beach, 4-1 on Kioza, 6-1 on the Lilac Rolla, and double digits on the rest. Mark, where did you land?
Yeah, I think if you looked at the last couple of races, we've had some really kind of short fields, or I shouldn't say short fields. There was one horse that really towered over the rest of the field. And all of a sudden you get to this race, and this is just a really great betting race. I think for me, the two most likely winners are somebody like Excellent Truth. I think the horse makes all the sense in the world, probably gets the right kind of setup, should have enough pace to run into and to close into. And the other horse that I thought was really interesting is the 9 Choica, who has tactical speed, can be forwardly placed, and should sit a pretty nice trip, just off some of the other more like speed balls that might not get this trip. But beyond that, I think you could make a case in here if you were playing something like a pick 5 and you needed coverage. I could see you go 6 or 8 deep in here before you felt like you really had enough coverage for a wager like that. I'm really kind of interested to see how how Caleb saw this, because I had a tough time with this race. Took a long time looking at it, and I also think if we do get rain during the day, it definitely changes the complexion of it. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark, and kind of how you've seen the race. I do think it's a tough race. I agree with your top 2, essentially, Choica and Excellent Truth. I essentially have them as 1A, 1B in some form or fashion. I know some people tend to think that, Excellent Truth was tons the best in the Jenny Wiley and had all this trouble and she should have won. And I've watched that replay probably 10 times, and I just can't reach that conclusion. She did have some trouble, and it maybe cost her a little bit, but it isn't like she was going to run away and hide from that field. So I think that, to me, they're very similar, and the 8 will in all likelihood get bet pretty hard off that perceived trouble and the connections. So I think Choica offers better value, similar to the first time they faced off. But I think they both need to be used. I think they're both your most likely winners. When you get beyond them, it is tough. You look at a horse like the number 7, a Lilac Rolla, who was competing in Group 1 company over at Newmarket and at the Curragh. A lot of breaks in those running lines. Only raced twice as a 2-year-old, 3 times as a 3-year-old. Has been off since July for almost a year. Has never run a bad race, but now comes to America, switches barns, and picks a pretty ambitious spot to make her 4-year-old debut. Belmont doesn't have a ton of overseas shippers to the U.S. This is not really a move he's known for, but according to Brisnet, it is a positive move for him. 29% of wins out of 17 starters with a positive ROI. Looking at the company, Lilac Rolla kept, Porta Fortuna, Fallen Angel, Rogue Millennium. Those are all opera singer, very nice horses. So I think she's one who needs used, but comes with a little more uncertainty relative to the top two I mentioned. I mean, I think I can actually make the same argument, for the number 10, Heredia, who, out of that Sun Chariot Stakes back in 2023, I mean, she was just beaten by Inspiral and this horse's name, who I can never say, but I know is very good. Mark, you got to say that. Mise to Savine. I know it's not right.
I don't know. No.
Yeah, it's a French horse, but the horse is extremely talented, and both have gone on to be extremely talented. I think Inspiral won or just missed a Breeders' Cup mile, I think it was, or Philly America, if I forget. But the big question here is that was 2 years ago, and then this horse came back in the Beaugay at Aqueduct and it didn't get the win. Sure, she could take a step forward second off the layoff, but she has a 6-year-old mare, so you do have to wonder kind of what's left, as far as upside goes. But yeah, I guess all that to say, I'm much more interested in the European shippers or, European shippers that are now American horses after a start or two, more so than any of the domestic horses. So I'll probably have mostly 8 and 9, a little bit of 7 and 10. I could perhaps be convinced to throw in a horse like Kehoe Beach if speed is holding on as good tomorrow as it was today. But if the track's fair, then I'd probably not be very interested in Kehoe Beach.
Yeah, of course, Caleb talks about the horse I wanted to kind of loop back to, and that was the 10 Heredia. I think that's a horse that if you look at her running form, she did her best stuff going a mile. They probably ran her a little too far. She just about made the lead in the stretch and then faded a little bit late. So maybe she just needed to start, but it also kind of screams like maybe that was a tick too far. And the speed figure came back every bit as fast as, somebody like, is some of the shorter priced horses in here would be an Excellent Truth, be a choice, except for you're going to get, I don't know, 4 times the price probably. I think that 15 to 1's a pipe dream. You probably get more like 8 or 10 to 1, but I think she provides a little bit of value in a race where, Grand Motion spots them really well, and it wouldn't surprise me. She doesn't need to take a big step forward to be a major player here, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is a really tough race. You kind of look, especially if you look at speed figures of any sort. Timeform has got this race very, very tight. Like, the 8, who's your morning line favorite, came out last time, ran a 122. Now, granted, right, that's first time in the U.S., right? So you could theoretically see maybe taking a step forward from that, and that's kind of like, I guess you could say, like the top for this field, right? But I mean, a lot of these horses are running in the 120s, so it's kind of tough if you're going to try and rely on speed figures to kind of go through and figure out which horses you're going to use. This is a spread race for me. I think if the track is playing anywhere remotely close to how it was today, you got to use Kehoe Beach. This is a horse that's shown a bunch of speed, gets IRAD aboard here, has been able to go and, set some decent fractions. And, if Frankie didn't go 22 and 4 to the quarter, maybe would have been able to hang on there in that Jenny Wiley. But I like Kehoe Beach. Honestly, I really like this one, dynamic pricing. And it's interesting because couldn't have Chad put this horse in maybe an easier spot earlier on the card?
You probably should have.
Right. So I just think it's interesting. Like, I mean, this is the horse that ran a 122 last time out in the Beaugay. It's cutting back to a mile, which it seemed, his run fine at a mile. And gets Dylan here. I don't know. I thought that this was a really interesting horse in this spot. Coming off that last effort, I think a horse like the 2 Special Juan is another one that at a mile has run figures that fit in the First Lady ran a 123, but kind of came back to Gulfstream, and Gulfstream's not really turf, so it gets back to a real turf course here again. So wouldn't be crazy, I think, to see a little bit of improve, or at least run back to that last figure, and is a horse that I think. Is a horse I think that with it's got a bit of tactical speed, so can be at least forwardly placed, and like I said, that was an advantage this time or this last couple thing. I think of the short prices, Kioza is the most likely, obviously winning that Jenny Wiley, coming in off 3 straight wins, so that's going to be a horse that I'm going to have on my tickets. And then you guys already talked about the 10. The 10 is basically the same as some of these other horses, where first time in the U.S. came and ran a monster fig, backed up a lot of the efforts that this horse had overseas. And yeah, I think, with another start here, if on a fair track, I think can be very, very dangerous here. So I'm going to fade the 8 in this race, Excellent Truth, but I'm going to be pretty spready. And, I am using Kehoe Beach and Kioza, who are both going to be kind of short prices. So it's not like I'm fading all the chalk in here, but I thought that this was a spready race, and I thought there were a couple different ways you can go.
Yeah, one other horse I want to talk about quick before we move on is the 3 Segestra, which I don't think anybody talked about, but Nick Severs brought her up in chat, and she's one that I do have marked down. Is kind of an interesting player. If you're a time form person, this is a horse that has improved every single start of her career. She's very lightly raced compared to a lot of the other horses that are in this field, and it's really neat to see. I like Jose up on her. I think, to me, I think I prefer Jose over Arad, specifically on turf, and especially with a horse that's got a little bit of tactical foot. I don't think she's going to be on the lead, but she might end up kind of inheriting a really nice little pocket trip, and she doesn't need to take a huge step forward from that modesty to be a major player. This would be second start off the long layoff, and a second start of her 4-year-old campaign. So this is where you would kind of expect to see that improvement. So I think she's a horse that might get a little ignored on the board, and again, another one that could provide a lot of really good value in this race. So Mark, interesting though. It is interesting though to see him cut her back. I mean, obviously she did some real good running in the Belmont Oaks last year. It is interesting to see the cutback, but I don't think it's out of sorts. I mean, she did she had a win going a mile at Keeneland, spring of last year. So
I'm surprised, Mark. You're usually a big fan of like the other Chad, so I'm surprised you didn't look at the 1 at all.
No. I would take. I think I would take either of the other 2 Chads a long ways in front of the 1.
Yeah, I think that time form Bogey figure is about 5 to 8 points too fast.
Yeah,
so I don't think that one's going to do as legit at all.
I'll remember that when I'm wiping my tears with the $100 bills of yours.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, why does Arad get off that horse if that horse is live?
I mean, why does Irad do what he does? Why does Irad raid speed horses?
Because you bet on them.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Saturday's card here, and we're gonna go ahead and I did see Penn State Scott just said just buy the race and call it a day. As soon as that happens, chalk will come in. That's Mark's MO. He buys the race and he gets the 5-2. But although I am seeing overseas 2-1 on Excellent Truth, so expect maybe that price to even come down a bit. And I think you might get your price on basically anybody else that you like in that race. But we're gonna take a look at this late pick 6. Caleb, we'll talk a little bit after, but this might be our group ticket, right? And for those of you guys who didn't catch us on Monday, but I think I'm gonna put together a bet share on Twin Spires, just because it's the easiest way to do it. Like I don't, if I had more time, we would do the old fashioned way with a bunch of tickets or whatever. But I think we're just gonna do a good old big caveman. Put a bet share out there on Twin Spires. Nick, I know you're in California. I will save you a share. We'll work something out. But we'll see how we handicap this. If we're pretty in lockstep, I think we might be able to to do this and put something together here. But we're gonna start with the Met Mile, and shockingly, Mark and I saw this like exactly the same, which was
Oh, I got
kind
bad
of
news for both of you
crazy.
guys.
So, Caleb, how did you see this one then?
Oh yeah. So well, listen, it's a good race, right? I think that you can. Fierceness has been incredible recently. White Abario on his day is an incredible horse. Um, that being said, I don't think I want to bet either of them. Um, I actually like the 4 and the 5 in this race. so, but you got to start with the favorites, I think. Fierceness, I have a lot more confidence in than I do White Abario. He's just a more, other as he went later into the Derby, he's turned into just a much more consistent horse, which is pretty impressive. He's got a lot of versatility. He's extremely fast. My question with him, and White Abario is we haven't seen them handle one turn in a long time. They've both been mostly doing 2 turn races. In fact, when White Abario did do some of his 1 turn races, they were some of the worst races he's ever run. I mean, his Met Mile last year was the worst race on the page. And then he had his comeback effort at Gulfstream, and the Mr. Prospector was extremely flat. Yeah, he did win the Pegasus and then go on to win the Ghost Sapper around 2 turns. But I just don't know if I love him at a 1 turn mile or a 1 1/4 turn at Saratoga, I guess, out of the chute. So I don't trust White Abario. Fierceness, I trust more, but I also kind of think Fierceness is a horse that's hard to ride, and I think he's become a little more mature as a 4-year-old now. But I hate the fact he drew the rail. He doesn't get that cushy outside stalk and pounce kind of trip that he likes. And I think he's a bit of a difficult horse to ride. He's cutting back to a mile. I don't know how much speed he'll show, especially from the rail. So all that, I know it's a short field, but at massively short prices, I think you have to look at a horse like the number 4, Just a Touch, who is probably extremely, unproven on the class. I mean, he's never even won a stakes race. But if you look at the numbers he's put up in his 2 starts as a 4-year-old now, they are essentially just as fast as what White Abario has been running, and almost as fast as peak Fierceness efforts. So this is a horse who, yeah, maybe you have the same questions about the 1 turn, but I think there's more compensated risk there because you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, not even money or 9 to 5, and just on raw figures alone, he's extremely quick. He does have to prove that he can run those figures off of Lasix because they did come on Lasix. But he is one that I think, was a well thought of 3-year-old. I mean, just losing to Sierra Leone back in the Bluegrass by, about a length or so after contesting a pretty quick pace that day. So he's one I like a lot. And then I probably will have a little bit of Raging Torrent, simply because I know where this horse is going to be in this race, and it's probably going to be right in the front. He crushed the Godolphin Mile over in Dubai. And then, he also kind of crushed the Malibu prior to that. So the Godolphin Mile in particular shows that he can do this. He can get the mile. Now, at least overseas, he can get the mile. And he's obviously a very proven 1-turn horse where, with the exception of the Breeders' Cup, he's been outstanding. So I'm going against the grain here a little bit. I assume if you guys are seeing this the same way, you're both on Fierceness. Correct me if I'm
wrong. You're halfway right.
Yeah, halfway right, Mark.
Yeah. I think this race is really hard because I'm going to say probably the dumbest thing in ticket structuring, which is the fact that I think I use both Fierceness and White Abario equally. I really can't.
Mod, someone ban this. Someone ban him.
Yep, there it is. No, I just think it's a situation where both of them are notorious for occasionally they throw a clunker race or they don't run their A game. I don't necessarily know why that is. It's never made a lot of sense with either one of them, and I just want coverage to both of them. I think 95% of the time the race goes through one of the two of them, and yeah, I just think you use them both and kind of move on. I did look at your Just a Touch for a really long time, Caleb, and my issue with Just a Touch is that I don't understand why he's here and not running a 1.125 or a 1.25 race I mean, I realize there's a big purse here. You know, it's $1 million race, but it just isn't there something at Churchill or something they could be running him in that's an equal kind of purse that's 1.125 miles or 1.25 miles. It just seems like an odd spot when he's never run this distance. I mean, I realize he did run it once. I guess he ran the Gotham, which was a mile that year, but it just seems really weird to cut him back at this point in his career when you would assume that there are other things. Whereas, you know, Fierceness and I mean, I guess it's been a while for Fierceness too, but White Barrio has been campaigned a little bit of all over the place in different distances, so it's a little bit less suspect for doing it with those two, at least for me.
Yeah, so on the horse racing happy hour, I basically said I think there's two horses that can win this race. It's Fierceness and White Barrio, and with game theory, you take the longer of the prices of the two. So I was single A White Barrio. I basically thought that for sake of the group ticket that we were going to use both, because I thought that's where Caleb was going to land, and now he's got me questioning this entire idea because I don't know if I want to go 4 deep in a race where I'm going to be using basically the top 4 choices. But yeah, I'm going to be completely honest though with you guys. White Barrio is to me what Oil Can Night is to Caleb. Like it doesn't matter what the price is. I mean, I'm betting it. So yeah, I think. But there's the only horse that I think in here that has any kind of figures that match up with I think what Fierceness's run is White Barrio. I think the 7 furlong races earlier this season, kind of 24 coming into 25, gave me at least a little bit more confidence in this race. I think the big question mark is at this trip last year at Saratoga. He did not. He just looked like he did not like running out of this Wilson chute. He might as well have been called like White Wolf of Oak Lawn or something like that, right? As much as he hated the shoot, but yeah, I don't know. I originally wasn't going to be playing the sequence, so I was just kind of like, oh, I'll just take White Barrio, for the memes and stuff. But yeah, I really just think that it's either the one or the two, and I don't really think anyone else is close to him. But obviously we're seeing this differently. Road Warrior saying this race is a gigantic skip for him. He's got no interest. So should have had a lot of other nice horses in here. And that was actually something interesting. Andrew Champagne thought that the True North might have had something to do with it because he thinks a lot of these horses, like Bookham Dano, maybe Mulligan, could have shown up in the Met Mile and kind of spice it up a little bit, but they chose to go to the True North instead. But yeah, I know some of these stakes, kind of got changed around with the new, with them running at Saratoga and kind of the newish schedule. But I don't know if maybe the race got cannibalized a little there. Anything else on this race? Nick's saying he wants 0 shares if it's too deep here. So maybe I won't have to save shares for Nick. All right, race 9 to Jaipur. We're going to be going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. One of Mark's favorite races of the entire year. 6-5 on Think Big. 7-2 on AG Bullet. 8-1 on R Shot and Arzak. 10-1 or more on everybody else,
including
who am I including?
The horse that somebody went all in on.
Ah, Coppola. Oh, good old Coppola. Oh man, Fortnite is saying he's begging all the gods for Rapoli to lose. So I post some nasty, unprovoked things to Twitter about other owners. Yeah, I mean that's just
Mike being Mike.
Yeah,
you love him or hate him, Mike is very good for the sport. I will put it there. You can hate him, think he's an epic a-hole. You're not really wrong in saying that, but he puts his money where his mouth is, and he is very good for the sport that way.
Well, Mark, I'll let you start here. Where did you land in the Grade 1 Coppola Stakes?
Yeah. The Grade One Coppola Stakes, I will not be betting Coppola because I learned my lesson that Coppola does not want to go this far. I think you kind of have to start and end with the favorite Think Big. Think Big has won 3 in a row, looked very impressive in doing so. Skip the Pimlico races, points for this, and I think is it makes all the sense in the world. Horse is in really good form. Horse really likes to win. Probably sits a pretty similar trip to that Keeneland race. The Shakertown, where he made just a really nice move, kind of up the inside. And yeah, I mean, I think he's a very interesting player here. Now the thing is, I think he probably gets a little bit overbet based on his chances of winning. If you look at his figs on time form, there are a bunch of other horses in here who've run better figures. So I'm going to go to the one of those that I'm probably most interested in. And this is a horse that I have lit money on fire with for, I think all of his last, I don't know, 4 or 5 starts. And that's the 9 AG Bullet. I think, if AG Bullet runs her best race, she's a very interesting player here. I think it's interesting to see Flavien Prat get aboard her. Looks like, I don't know if Rispoli lost the mount after whatever that last race was. And she's got some figures in here that are substantially faster than the rest of the field. So and the other thing is, I guess if you've been watching the turf at Saratoga, you really haven't been able to close. Now, I don't know if that'll change by Saturday, but she's going to be very much forward and part of this pace complexion. And I think she's, when somebody like Coppola, hits the 4.5 furlong mark and decides he's done, this is the kind of speed horse that takes over. And we at least know can get this distance. So.
Caleb, you know who my top pick in this race is?
Oh, let me think. I don't know. I feel like you're like a closet Arzak guy.
I kind of like Coppola in this spot.
Oh my god!
I kind of like
Coppola. We just stopped
actually.
The stream.
I mean, to be honest with you, Caleb, I think you were basically right. I think the first time, I actually think that Arzak is probably going to be pretty sneaky in here. I think he's going to be pretty good because I think he's not going to get bet. I really think this 2 is going to take a ton of money, and I don't know if I really want to touch the 2 whatsoever in this race. I mean, I maybe I'll just be late on the Ben Curtis train. Maybe I'll flip eventually, like I did on Flavien Prat. But Michael Stidham shipping away from. I mean, Mark, what's Stidham in New York? You pull those stats up because I can't imagine. I don't remember like off the top of my head him shipping to New York very often. So when I think of Stidham, I'm thinking Kentucky Fairgrounds type circuit. But yeah, I agree with Mark. I think AG Bullet makes a ton of sense here. He's just a cool horse in that they run. Doesn't matter what distance they run him. They run him down the hill. They run him a mile. They sprint him. He just seems to show up. I mean, the Unbridled Song, maybe he didn't necessarily show up all that well, and he was favored in that race. But that turf sprint, he showed up when he hadn't sprinted. Gone 5 furlongs, I think, in his career. He was running, route races or going miles before that. And
do I have a Stidham stat for you? He is 8% in New York, but if you look at New York State stakes races, he's 1 for 22.
Interesting. But yeah, I really like AG Bullet in here. To agree with Mark, I didn't have Coppola written down as an A until I saw races today. I mean, if the track plays like it did today, which, like I said, it might not. Maybe we found a track that can carry Coppola that extra half furlong mark. Maybe we found it.
Okay, Josh.
Remember when Mark said the exact same thing at Pimlico? Like, hey, turf is all speed. I'm gonna go all in on Coppola.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. And then I created a meme that you guys won't leave me alone about. So I'm glad that Josh can join in on the memeage after Saturday.
Yeah,
Right.
Arzak, I think, is just your prototypical horse for course. I think he's run very, very good races here at Saratoga. I thought his Jaipur last year, he came up short against Cogburn, and there's no Cogburns in this race. So I thought Arzak made
God,
a bit
I
of
wish
sense here.
Cogburn was in this race.
And then I thought the 4 My Boy Prince was in here with a shot. He was one that you kind of look at. Time form, and he's got a race in here that seems to kind of fit up with what some of these horses have run in the past. I think his last race was, he's got a 121 in the Commonwealth, and then they cut him back to the turf 6 furlongs last time at Aqueduct, and he ran a 119, and that 119 seems to line up with kind of what the 2 horse Think Big has run the last 2 times out. Some of the races that Arzak has run in the past. So I thought My Boy Prince was in here with a little bit of a shot, but I'm gonna be fading the short price favorite, and then I'll be 4, 5, 9, and 10. Caleb, where do you land?
Yeah, I think I can keep it pretty simple. I like the top 2 choices, the 2 and the 9. I do. I think 6-5 on Think Big is kind of some wide guy bullshit. I don't think she'll get bet that hard, or he'll get bet that hard. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this horse was 10-1 in the Shakertown 2 starts back, and now he's going to be even money in the Premier Turf Sprint in the U.S. Essentially. I mean, 2 starts later, I get it. It's a bad division, but I don't think he's going to go off that short. But I do like Think Big. I mean, just horse has done nothing wrong and just continues to improve over and over. And then I like AG Bullet. Rispoli lost the mount off after the some questionable decisions, in that Unbridled Song at Churchill. I don't know that she was ever beating Queen Maxima, who was just flying that day, but probably was an easy second, if not for getting into some trouble on the fence. So, but expect to see, probably.
I feel like that deserves like air quotes, like some trouble.
Yeah, getting into a ton of trouble on the fence. Like, yeah. Probably deserves a pass for that one. With the outside draw here, I'm with Flavian Pratt aboard. He always tends to get these horses in the right spot. So, yeah, you kind of like, I think it was Josh or Mark, whoever said she's a cool horse, going a mile down the hill at Santa Anita, going 6.5, a flat 5 at Del Mar. She just does it all. I mean, a very, very cool horse. Gives her rider a ton of options, can close, can go to the lead. So, yeah, she's the other one that I want, and that's kind of all I need. I looked at both Josh's 4 My Boy Prince and the 5 Arzak. Maybe C types for me, but this just isn't a race that I think I have to spread that much in.
Mark, you sure I can't talk you back into getting in the Coppola train?
Josh, I want you to bet Coppola with both hands, because think about it, you can
hands.
double meme me. You can be like, hey, when you were wrong, we were all right, and then I was right when you were. You get me twice. You do it, Josh. You move those odds.
Well, you know what? You did ask how many strays you caught earlier this week, and you caught none.
I did.
So I think you kind of were asking for it a little bit, but I thought
Can we talk
Oh,
one
go ahead,
more horse
Mark.
before we move on? If you
Yeah,
don't mind.
yeah.
Oh, okay. The 8-horse Allegon. I didn't know if anybody gave this one a look. Edward Allard doesn't ship a ton of horses. You don't see, he doesn't have a ton of starters overall. And this horse seems to have gotten pretty decent. Runs really consistent figs, runs them all the time. You're getting Jose Ortiz up. I trust him to give me a good trip. And this is a horse that I don't know if he's good enough to win, but a little bit of an every other pattern in there lately. I don't know if he's good enough to win, but he's an interesting player if you're looking to fill out a trifecta or something, an exacta underneath. I thought he was sneaky, and I bet you're going to get every bit of that 10-1.
Yeah, I think this horse will be 25-1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not for me, but you will get the price for sure.
All right. Race 10, the Pennine Ridge, grade 3, mile and 16th on the inner turf for 3-year-olds. Your morning line favorite is 6-5 on Zulu Kingdom. Mark, are you betting Zulu Kingdom here?
Yep, both hands. I think Zulu Kingdom just absolutely towers over this field. I don't really need to talk about this race for any longer because I have maybe Caleb has a really good reason to pick Zulu Kingdom apart or something. I don't know, does he have a Monmouth work or something that Caleb can go after? But he just towers over this field, and I really don't need anybody else.
Caleb?
And Zulu Kingdom's a horse that I've also been trying to beat pretty much every start of his career. I got him once in the Breeders' Cup, and then he's had the better of me in the last couple. This is not a good. Let me take that back. It's not a bad field for a grade 3. It's just Zulu Alpha. Oh my God. Zulu Kingdom
Oh,
is.
no.
I know. I'm getting flashbacks over here, guys. It's bad. Zulu Kingdom is better than a grade 3 horse. I don't think he's as good as other people think he is, but he's better than a grade 3 horse, and he's very much in a grade 3 here. He just won a grade 1 at Churchill on Derby Day with a perfect trip that he always seems to manage. But nevertheless, he did win the race, and I just think he's better than these horses. The only horse I would maybe look at trying to beat him with would be the number 7, Mibago. But I think he really needs like firm turf, wants to hear his feet rattle when he runs. And I don't know if we're going to get that. These last two starts, he did catch good turf at Keeneland and Churchill, and he hasn't been able to replicate that Gulfstream form. If the race was held today, meaning Thursday, I would bet Mibago pretty heavily. The way Speed was carrying and how firm that turf is. So it's kind of a game time decision on what the turf looks like and how Speed's playing on whether I'm going to use him or not. But he's kind of the only one I can see that really might be able to beat Zulu Kingdom in this race.
Caleb and I see this race 100% exactly the same. There's 2 horses that can win this race. One of them is Zulu Kingdom. The other one is Mibago. And I think
Josh, we know there's a letter and a number that mean that the reason that you're on Mibago, there it is. Look at that. The good old 3 cherry special.
The old 3 cherry special. Oddly enough, there's only 2 horses that have run in besides Flying Mohawk, but we're not going to count that race. But the 2 horses have run 114 or better. One Zulu Kingdom, the other one's Mibago. So I don't know. I think that if to Caleb's point, if this race was today, we would probably all be very rich, and Papa Knight would just be, I don't know. Papa Knight would have been paying for the upgrade. He wouldn't have to weasel his way down to the better box. But
okay. So I got 2 things for you. First thing, you're gonna bet a rat on a speed horse. Second thing, he doesn't want to go this far, does he? Isn't Mibago really want to run like a mile at most, maybe be a 7 furlong horse? It just feels like as they've stretched him out, he just kind of gets nosed in the lane and stops, and that's what's happened in his last 2 races. It feels like they are just need to give him a cutback, or I don't know. It just feels like that. Good luck.
I
think it's the softer turf in the last 2 that kind of get him in. But
tomorrow, so Saturday's gonna be.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is if the rain comes, he's less interesting to me.
Okay, I gotcha. I missed that part.
I see Felipe has joined us from Subbed and Like, coming from the Triple H podcast. Love the info and vibe, and he's from the Bay Area, Oakland. So we'll be visiting him in a little bit with Andrew's wedding coming up, and he's Team Rapoli and Fierceness. So he's a big Fierceness guy. Like I said, I think Fierceness is in with a huge shot. Anything else on that race?
I just want to touch briefly on the 2 AP Kid, only because the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th place finishers from that maiden score all came back to win. That was an incredibly strong maiden field. He's too slow to win on paper. He's against probably a stronger field than he was expecting for a grade 3. But if not this race, he's one I would keep an eye on because I do think that he might have some real talent.
Agreed.
All right.
But yeah, we can move on.
Race 11. Woody Stevens. 7 furlongs for 3-year-olds. And man, this is a huge like name race, isn't it? Like, I mean, you're getting Madacat Road, you're getting Citizen Bull in here, Colloquial is scratched, Chancellor McPatrick coming back, Neoquos, was on the Derby Trail, Gate to Wire, within the Pat Day Mile. This is just bunch of name horses in here. I said on the Drinking Champagne podcast we recorded earlier this week, my best bet of the day was in this race, and it was the number 1 Big Truz. I love Big Truz in this race. Then we got a scratch of the 7 horse Colloquial, and now maybe I don't like Big Truz just as much. Because when you looked at this race, you saw. I mean. You want to talk about a race where there's just horses that hate passing other horses? I mean, man, you get so many just ones all over the place in here. And I was just trying to find a horse that run, decent enough figures that had passed other horses. And it seemed like Big Truz was kind of the default there in that, you had a lot of real fast horses. You're going to get a bit of speed, and I thought maybe, with Joel on board, Big Trust can kind of work out a trip and maybe close off of it. I'll still have him as an A. I'll still have him on a lot of tickets, but I don't know if I'm feeling necessarily as strong as I did before. Obviously, with the 2 Bafferts in here, Madacat Road and Citizen Bull, I don't know, man. Like, I get that they're just trying to throw something at the wall with Citizen Bull, but I don't know. I really do think that he wants 2 turns. And I think, or at least I can't tell you definitively that Citizen Bull wants to sprint. I can tell you pretty well that I think Madacat Road is going to appreciate the cutback. We see this real often with some of these Derby horses, right? That they get the cutback and they love it. And I think of the 2 horses, I think Madacat Road's probably the most likely to kind of enjoy the cutback. So I'm going to have him as an A. I don't think you get even remotely close to the 10-1 on him. Depending on how the track comes up, I think Macho Music is also usable. But I do think that he's going to want a little bit of moisture in the ground. You look at his last figure, and there's a pretty large improvement in that figure. And I think it really had to do with the fact that, there was we had a sloppy track, McLean's music on the top, tap it on the bottom. I mean, that's a horse that just loves the slop. And then I thought the 11 Gate to Wire was interesting in here. I thought he's a horse, you kind of cross the line through those 2 turn races, and you go back to that Swale. That Swale is just as fast, if not faster, than what anybody's run. Now, granted, it's a Gulfstream figure. It could be very, very fake figure. But I thought that at least that with the 11, you can make a case that maybe he's a horse that's just been dying to cut back again. Like I said, maybe you kind of cross the line through the Pat Day Mile with the slop. Weather permitting, we'll see what we get on Saturday. But I thought the 11 Gate to Wire was interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna have I'm pretty spready here. I like the 1, 2, and 3 the best. I'll probably have a little bit of the 11. I might even be talked into the 10, but then I think I'm getting just like way too chalky in here. So, Mark, I'll let you talk about who you like in here.
You wax poetically about half the field, so we've done the full role reversal here. God, this is going to absolutely pain me to say, but I think I'm going to single Citizen Bull in here as a lone A. I think this absolutely hits him right between the eyes on the cutback. There is an argument made he's a desperate need the lead type. And if that's your take, that he desperately needs the lead, no, he's a toss in this race because he's not going to get the lead. But I think as they've stretched him out, he's gotten slower and he doesn't seem like he's firing. I think there's an argument made that RB Lewis was, one of his better races going a mile. And I think that the cutback I think he's going to be fine for him. So I think, and the problem is that I kept getting this race is I didn't want a single Citizen Bull. I wanted to have like 3 A's in this kind of a race. I think this is a race that needs coverage, but I just kept going through this field and I can't find another horse that I can't kind of poke a bunch of holes in. So I guess I did kind of poke a couple holes in Citizen Bull, but I just think he's the most likely winner, and wouldn't shock me if he romps in here.
Citizen Bull is the least likely winner in this entire race. I would take every other horse in this field over Citizen Bull. I mean, there's no argument to be made that he wants a cutback. There's an argument to be made that he just stinks. He's had cupcake candy ash trips in his wins in California with 4 of the other 5 horses being Bafferts. He got lucky in the Breeders' Cup when East Avenue didn't break, and then he finally got exposed twice in a row for the precocious rat that he is. So, yeah, I would not bet him with guy on the ground bucks. So, no, not for me. And I have to go aggressive on that pick because my own pick also makes me want to kind of throw up in my mouth a little bit. But Josh kind of mentioned earlier, there's a ton of horses in here that kind of want to go forward. And I agree with that analysis. I mean, a horse like Medicat Road probably needs the lead. Macho Music Man seems to need a lead. Patch Adams, I don't know what he does, but he needs to be forward.
Land on Chancer? Are you going to say Chancer?
Somehow I'm getting to Chancer McPatrick. And I have hated this horse in all of his starts as a 3-year-old. But now that I'm kind of looking at him with a little bit less hatred and maybe a little bit more objectivity, this is a horse who's undefeated at 1 turn. He's got a perfect 2-for-2 record at Saratoga, and he's kind of just strikes me as one of those textbook, really good 1-run closers who are good around 1 turn, and that people want to try to stretch him out and put him around 2 turns because of how well they close in a sprint, and that doesn't always translate to route distance. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, there was no pace, and he just couldn't land a blow. His Tampa Bay Derby race actually is better than it looked initially when you factor that Owen Almighty actually ran a pretty impressive race in the Derby to finish 5th after contesting a really hot pace, and that Hill Road came back to win the not the Jim Dandy, win the Peter Pan, and is going to be in the Belmont Stakes with an outsider's chance to hit the board there. So and the Bluegrass was terrible. I'm not going to dispute that, but again, I think this is just a horse that doesn't want to go around 2 turns, doesn't want to go a mile and a 16th, doesn't want to go a mile and an 8th. And he's by and far the proven closer in this field in a race that seems kind of ripe for someone to come off the pace. So somehow getting to Chance McPatrick, I hate the price. I think 4-to-1's a terrible value proposition. But given how much attention this horse attracts, the fact that he was on the Derby Trail, the fact that it's Flavian and Chad, I don't think you get much of a better price. But I do think in my horizontal wagers, I kind of have to use him. And then the other one Josh mentioned, who I will probably be using, is Macho Music. I'm kind of expecting the track to be sloppy. If it's not, I downgrade him, but kind of expecting the track to be sloppy. He really showed a new dimension and a new gear in that race on the Pate Mile, just running that field off their feet. I don't think he gets that lucky again in this field, but the price is right there that if the track comes up sloppy, he's one I would take a shot with. And then, that's kind of it. I did like Colloquial, but I didn't realize that apparently he's going to scratch, so I may need to take a second pass there. But that's what I have so far.
I didn't realize he was going to scratch either. And I had a question for Caleb, if you don't mind, Josh. Caleb, what's your take on the figures or the swale just in general? Because I was doing the same thing everybody else is. I was looking for closers and trying to figure out who can come from off the pace. And if you believe that swale figure, Gate to Wire is a major player in here. And I know you guys are kind of going down this. You want somebody from off the pace sort of angle. That's a 7 furlong race. That's the fastest in the field from off. If you believe the fig, he's a major player here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at, Macho Music Man came back to run, essentially a medium race at Tampa and then came in a huge way in the Pate Mile. He was coming out of that Swale Stakes. And then Gunmetal, kind of came out of the Swale and essentially paired up his figure from the Swale Stakes. So I mean, it's not that I think the figure is bad. It's just I don't, for Gate to Wire, for example, you would almost have to say in the Fountain of Youth he didn't want to go 2 turns, and then in the Pat Day Mile maybe he didn't like the slop because he hasn't run anything close to that in his next 2 efforts, and maybe those are 2 arguments you can make, especially at 12 to 1. Um, you know, because I think the figure is probably close to legit, but we just haven't seen him repeat it, and it's kind of hard to understand why. Um, so yeah, I mean, Gate to Wire is one that, especially with colloquial scratching, that I may look to include perhaps. But I'd probably have to look at the race a little bit more.
Yeah, good. There's lots of stuff coming in chat here. Fortnite is fun saying weird race. Arguments for and against most. Pace looks strong. He'd like to get morning line on gunmetal. That was his pick. I think one of the guys on the horse racing happy hour was really in on gunmetal. It might have been Chase. Really like gunmetal in this spot. Felipe loves it. He just tells it like it is. Citizen Bull shit. Nick Seaver saying talk shit about Citizen Bull, land on chance for McPatrick. That's why he watches this stream. And John Judge agrees with you. He thinks Chancer is back. Horses for courses. And Road Warrior also. Road Warrior on a Chad Brown horse. I never would have guessed it. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Caleb. I mean, I think if you look at the 1-turn races, right? But like, man, it's just such a I don't know. It just felt bad writing a letter next to it, so I just put a question mark on there, because I mean this is like the quintessential horse that I was just like, oh, he's going to be a short price and I get to bet against him. He's going to be a short price. I get to bet against him, and I'm like, oh, am I actually going to bet him this time? But he looks interesting. And Mark, like I said, I agree with you on Gate to Wire. I think I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot to see if that figure's fake, right? 12 to 1. I'll use that horse as a B.
So I'm just looking here, and Chancer is either going to be your favorite or second choice based on the morning lines, and on every figure I look at, he's the slowest horse in the race. So, cool. You guys have fun.
Felipe was asking about East Avenue, and he's running in the Matt Win on Sunday, so I put that in chat. But that's another one. But Caleb, you didn't give Big Truz a look at all.
I don't think a ton of Patch Adams, and it kind of bugged. I do like that he's a closer, and you do have Rosario up, who I think probably fits the horse better. But it seems like a bit of an ambitious spot, to go from a maiden breaker and then second and 1X allowance straight into a grade 1. It just seems like a little bit too much, a little too soon for me. He got actually up to within a neck of Patch Adams after passing a couple horses, and then actually lost ground in the stretch. And I don't think a whole lot of Patch Adams. So yeah, I mean, he kind of is a closer, and with Rosario, he will be. So I get what you're saying. But at 10 to 1, I mean, I could see it. I mean, he's not a horse, definitely not my best bet of the day, but I can see the argument you're making.
Nick Seaver saying, I hate that Caleb talked me into Chancer. so damn persuasive. All right, anything else in this race? I really think this is probably one of the most interesting races of the whole weekend. I'll be honest, anybody except for Citizen Bull can win this race, and I won't be surprised. I'm just kidding, Mark. I think Citizen Bull can win, but
I need more Caleb hate. The more Caleb.
Well, Caleb will give it to you in person. So
yeah, it's great. Right. I get the live hate, yeah.
And then you get the Caleb freak out afterwards. What are these guys doing? I don't understand what's going on here. It's gonna be great.
But the more pissed off he gets, the more the West Virginia twang comes out, and it just is even better.
Yeah, the Papa Night starts coming out.
Beer in there too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Race 12, the Manhattan. And I'll tell you guys, when I did our podcast earlier, and obviously if you haven't seen it yet, Drinking Champagne, that was recorded last night and up on all your podcast feeds and on YouTube. My bold prediction for the day was that I think that these last two stakes races have some of the most vulnerable short prices of the day. 5-2 on Spirit of St. Louis, 3-1 on Farbridge. You get 9-2 on Integration and Deterministic, 6-1 on Highway Robber, double digits on the rest. And I really do not like the top two choices in this race. I don't like Farbridge in this spot. I think this might be a little too sharp for Farbridge. I think Farbridge probably does his best running going, that mile and 3/8, mile and a half type distance. And Spirit of St. Louis, like, I hate to keep saying this, but like, you can't tell me that Chad thought that this freaking New York Pro was going to be a Grade 1 winner. All right, I will not believe that he was just hiding this horse in state bred races, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, actually, I think I can win Grade 1s with this guy. Like, no, like, reality's got to set in at some point. This is an every other type horse as well, and we're on the other, right? We got to beat this horse here, right? Like, I absolutely got to beat this horse. I know Caleb's going to have absolutely $0 through Spirit of St. Louis in the spot, so I'm going to be right there with him. No money through Spirit of St. Louis. Caleb hates Farbridge too, so no money through Farbridge. I know that as well. So I was kind of going back and forth. I like Integration a little bit in here. I think I don't like him. I don't like him as much as I think I do Deterministic. I think Deterministic is going to end up being my top pick in here. Really like the way that last race unfolded. I think that he's shown a bit of versatility where he can be on the pace, he can be just off of it. He's closed into fast paces. He's just kind of a versatile type, and he's run some pretty nice figures, I think, that fit in with this field. So I really like Deterministic here. Integration is just a horse that maybe just hates winning, and maybe is a horse that needs further, but I think as a horse I'll take the 9-2 versus what shorter price that you're going to get on a horse like Farbridge. And you get Flavian Pratt instead of DeTore. Last time Pratt rode this horse, they won. So I like a lot. I like the way that Integration's kind of going. But outside of those two, I think it gets a little bit interesting. I think my next choice would probably be the 4 Carson's Run. And I have to give all the credit to my podcast co-host Andrew Champagne on this one, because when he was telling me he liked this horse, I was like, what an idiot. I was like, what is this guy talking about? Like, I'm just like, oh, I got to listen to Andrew wax. And then, so like, I slept on it. I woke up today. I was handicapping and looking at stuff for the horse racing happy hour. And I kept looking at this horse, and I kept on looking at the stuff I circled. And I'm like, man, horse is 2 for 3 at Saratoga with a win. Right, won the Saratoga Derby Invitational last time he ran here at Saratoga, and on top of it, won that on a good turf course, which there's a good chance that's the kind of going we're going to get here. And just a lot of things are just pointing like, this is probably going to be a really, really good spot for this horse. And I mean, 12-1 on the morning line. I'll take a shot at that price. I really like the 4 Carson's Run. And then really the only other horse I thought that was a little bit interesting in this race was the 3 Highway Robber. Obviously finished 3rd last time out in that Turf Classic, but he was coming there at the end. Was back a little bit. He kind of just got outkicked, and he finished 3rd by a neck. But that was coming off of first time back here in the U.S. off of a race in Maidan, and he was able to run that. I expect a little bit of improvement, maybe second time back in the U.S. here. So I thought that Highway Robber was pretty interesting in here. I was a little bit concerned because of the way the turf was playing today, but I'll take a shot here with the Highway Robber as well. Probably as like a B or C type, but Caleb, where did you land?
We're really close on this one, Josh. You know me well, and you'll know that I'll have $0 going through Spirit of St. Louis. I also agree with your take on Farbridge. I think he's a cool horse, but I think I would like him better in the 2 Mile Gold Cup than I would in the mile and 3/16 Manhattan. I think he's really needs a mile and 3/8 to a mile and a half to do his best stuff. I think this will be too sharp. Um, that being said, I do like Deterministic, who you talked about. I don't see a ton of speed in this race, and yeah, it's a mile and 3/16. Maybe it's not as critical as a sprint race or something like that. But still, how often do we see these races get an Irish special? And I thought Kendrick gave a great aggressive ride in the Fort Marcy on Deterministic last out. Was able to turn the tables on Carson's Run, who seemed to have his number the last couple times they've met. So I do like Deterministic in here, Josh. I agree with you. I also agreed with your pick on Highway Robber as well. The one horse I do want to add in is a horse that I view kind of similarly to Deterministic, but probably at a much better price, and that's the number 8, Corruption. This, who I assume is maybe Mark's pick as well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, this is a horse that I think is just, if you're looking at speed, if it's not Deterministic, then Corruption is the horse who gets the lead here. And, this horse, after debuting once as a 2-year-old, missing a bunch of time, has just progressively gotten better and better and better. Has taken a step forward in every single start of his career. Most notably every single start, from 24 into 25. Pairing up top efforts last time out, just beat a neck by Farbridge when going a mile and a half, which is maybe kind of pushing his distance limits a little bit. Now he cuts back to a mile and 3/16 after he just buried a field going a mile and an eighth last out at Churchill. He's one, he doesn't need the lead though. I mean, you see those races earlier at Gulfstream where he was able to close. Mark Casse pretty clearly didn't realize what he had when he put this one in for a $35,000 tag. Was pretty fortunate this one was not claimed because has been a really nice horse for him so far. So Corruption's one that I think gets a very tactical trip in here, and could be a handful if left alone out front.
Yeah, you guys have already kind of talked all my horses here. I thought Integration super interesting. Obviously, is a major player here. I think the price play I do like the most is Corruption that Caleb mentioned. You're getting both. I don't know if I've ever seen this. Both Bayer and Timeform US paired tops, which is kind of cool. Our good friend Sheldon would be all over this horse. I thought Corruption is really interesting, and again, can go to the lead or can just kind of keep comfortable with Deterministic up front. Doesn't have to be on the lead. My gut is Jose probably tries to clear it and slow this down with him, and try to narrow special it a little bit. But I thought Corruption was a really interesting player. And you guys have sort of talked about everybody else, so I don't know. I'll touch on Spirit of St. Louis really quickly, who I think is your morning line favorite. I think to Caleb's, we've both been trying to beat this, beat Spirit of St. Louis for, I don't know, what feels like 100 races now. This is just a horse that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but my God, he loves getting his photo taken. And he's been, just really, really solid. I mean, won 11-16 lifetime. He's almost a $2 million winner at this point. And he just kind of runs very consistently good. Very infrequently does he ever turn in a bad race. I hate him for all the reasons that Caleb and I assume Josh also hate him for, but I think it'd be remiss to completely toss him off your tickets unless you're Caleb and you want to miss out on a 5-figure pick 5 to the favorite.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Oh, it's the best.
That's what happened to me on yesterday. I left the favorite Clement horse off in the last leg for $6,000, so it's tough.
Yeah.
But
there was a couple people asking about the Pletcher in here, Tucson, the number 7. Any of you guys give him a look?
I didn't.
I gave him a touch of a look. I just think he's a bit of an outsider, and they're taking a shot. He's won 3 in a row. Can get this trip, which is a nice thing. Obviously, that's not a common thing these days in horse racing. But he needs to improve a ton, and I think you're really betting him off that one last out turf fig. I don't know what kind of price you get on him, but having a rat up is not going to help the price at all. So he's probably under bet based on his chances of winning.
Yeah, I mean, if you do get that 20-1, I think that's a good horse
agreed.
to take a shot on. I'm not sure you'll get 20-1, but yeah, I mean, the horse is trending the right direction, handles the distance, handles the turf, can be very tactical. Things to like in there for sure. Just a really big class test here, going off Lasix. Some questions to answer.
Yeah, and also I think he threw up a huge figure in that Keeneland race, and it's probably going to take. I don't know if people would pay attention to that or not, but kind of what he beat, sort of a thing. I don't think there really was that much of that race, and they're definitely taking a massive class test here.
Yeah, I see a couple Tucson calls. Road Warrior likes fellow Andrew Carson Run. Nick's saying that it might be the wise guy horse, so he doesn't think you're gonna get that price. Felipe, he likes the 8 Corruption. He thinks Jose Ortiz is the right brother. He's riding well, so he's 2, 5, and 8 here. And Nick, you were saying Farbridge wins by a pole? Question mark. So, all right. Last race of the night, Belmont Stakes. We'll be going a mile and a mile and a quarter at Saratoga. Mark glaring at me. 8 horses signed on here. 8-5 on Journalism, 2-1 on Sovereignty, 4-1 on Baeza, 6-1 on Rodriguez, double digits on the rest. We can pull up actually early betting and tell you what the odds are right now. And wouldn't you know it? Oh, never mind. Journalism's a favorite now. He's 6-5. Last I looked, Baeza was the favorite at some point, and I was going to laugh. But Mark, I'll let you go first here. Where did you land here in the big one, the Belmont?
Yeah, I think this race, I don't even know how to set this race up or lead my way in it and not sound like an idiot. I think this race is tough, and I think everybody's going to see. Okay, you have the Derby winner and the Preakness winner. You're getting the rubber match. It's one of those two, but I just don't think it's that easy. We'll see if Rodriguez actually runs. There's a lot of rumor mill going on that he may scratch, but he's going to definitely inject some pace with somebody like Crudo on the front end. I don't know if Rodriguez really wants to go this far, but if he does run, we'll get to actually see. But I think the horse I'm most interested in is actually Baeza the 6. I think that he probably ends up getting a really nice trip. He's going to have some speed in front of him to go. We know this is probably his trip. Pedigree says so. And I thought his Kentucky Derby was way, way, way better than it. That he did not have the greatest of trips, and I think he it was way better than he had any right to be. This is a horse that obviously we know is out of Puka, who just drops G1 winners right and left, and we still don't quite know what the top end is on Baeza. This is a horse that could very easily take another small or big step forward and be an absolute wow. Getting all the Josh hate. Can definitely take a step forward, and I don't think we've seen the best out of Baeza quite yet. Pre-Derby, I thought the hype was the dumbest thing ever, and now and now I'm going to, I'm much more interested now. I thought, he would be a Travers kind of horse, and maybe we're going to get to see some real good stuff out of him a little bit before the Travers. And then I think that, the other horses, if there is enough pace and it does set everybody up, Journalism is a monster. Obviously very close to the Derby. His Preakness was, I don't know how you can invent more trouble and still win a race than that. He had absolutely no business winning that race at the quarter pole. I literally was like, oh my God, I'm a genius. I just cashed my wager to Gasker. And then I get immediately run down. So Journalism was a monster. Of the off the pace types, he's the one I'm most interested in. But I'm just going to wax around and I can basically talk about anybody in this field. So let's get Caleb's actually legitimate, decent opinions here.
I guess I'm going to get Buzzard too, because I see the pretty maybe I don't see it as open as I landed on the same top 2 as you did. Journalism and Baeza. If I could lock in 4-1 on Baeza right now, I would make a sizable win wager. I do not think we're going to get that. Josh, I know you said he was the favorite earlier. I'm guessing he's going to go off in the ballpark of 5-2, 3-1, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's 7-2 right now.
7-2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, journalism after his Preakness heroics is going to take all the money and arguably deservedly so. All of his last 2 races have been outstanding. I have zero knocks on journalism. He's one of the most athletic horses I think I've ever seen. The way he was able to recover in that Preakness, his acceleration in the Santa Anita Derby, he's just an incredible horse. My slight hesitation would only just be at this point you got to be a little concerned about what Rispoli is going to do on this horse, as much as I do like Rispoli. And B, that one, his Kentucky Derby, he didn't really have an excuse. He just was second best that day. And, Rispoli, said as much in the post race interview and kind of made a comment that he just didn't think that the sloppy track moved up Sovereignty more than than journalism handled it essentially. And there is a decent chance we catch a sloppy track. I'm not going to overthink that too much, but those are probably the only minor chinks in the armor I could have on journalism. I'll be using him heavily everywhere. Speaking of Sovereignty, he's the one of the 3 main contenders I do not really want anything to do with. I thought he kind of got lucky that he sort of hit that horse for course angle by hitting that perfect thing at Churchill, where he's had by far his 2 best races of his career. I thought his Florida Derby was pretty poor, losing to Tappan Street, I don't think that highly of, being kind of life and death to get up over River Thames 2 back. He won the Derby. He's the Derby winner, and some level of respect is due. But he also skipped the Preakness, so he's also kind of a little bitch, and some level of disrespect is due for that. So, all things considered, he's a one-run closer in a race that doesn't have that much pace, and I just don't think he can get the job when spotting a horse like Baeza or journalism 2, 3, 4, 5 lengths when the real running starts. So I'm against him. A big fan of journalism, and to Mark's points on Baeza, Baeza is the most progressive horse in the field, the horse with the most upside, the least exposed, who's continued to step forward. Can be more tactical than perhaps the other 2 main rivals. He did get first jump on journalism in that Santa Anita Derby and just barely got nailed late. Has continued to take step forwards, and looks like one that's going to run all day. So I'm not worried about the distance. So I'm Baeza and journalism as my top 2. Probably the only 2 that I'll use. I might use a sprinkling of 1 or 2 others on deep tickets, but I'll let Josh go before he gets too sick over all this Baeza love.
Yeah, I don't want any part of Baeza. I don't want any part of Sovereignty. Sovereignty is always going to have a soft spot since it's in my heart because it's the first Derby I saw in person, right? And I was able to watch the press conference. I recorded some of it, and Bill Mott came down, and I was able to shake his hand, congratulate him, like after it was a really cool moment. And he looked down at my badge. He's like, "Am I supposed to know who you are?" And then looked up at my face, like, "Well, thank you." And then he walked away. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think to your point, Caleb, I think Sovereignty just had a better trip, and I know the Derby's always right a game of trips, right? He had a better trip than what journalism got in that Derby. He got the jump and won. I thought journalism ran a really good race, and obviously the Preakness was just incredible effort. Journalism is the real deal, and I know he didn't win the Derby, but I think similar to horse like Epicenter, right, who didn't win the Derby, I think he didn't really lose anything in defeat. I don't think so. I really like journalism in the spot, but yeah, I'm gonna have most of my money through Rodriguez because how can I not? Right. This horse owes me money. And more specifically, this horse owes me 2 future bets that I didn't get to sweat at all. Well, I did get to sweat at least for a couple months on the first one, but yeah, I just think that we were talking earlier on the horse racing happy hour that he wasn't ridden to win to start the year. It really seems like he was ridden just to kind of like go around, right? Hey, stay out of Citizen Bull's way, let him win the race. And I feel like once they rode him to win, like they did in the Wood Memorial, right? You kind of started to see like the real talent that he had. And I really think that, he's the inside drawn speed. Speed's always dangerous on these big days at Saratoga. So, of course, I'm going to have the speed on my ticket. If I'm going to have the speed on my ticket, though, and there's only 2 speed horses, that means I got to have the other speed horse as well. I got Crudo in here as a B horse. Now, this horse is too slow, according to any figure you look at. But this is a horse that's got 3 straight improving races, right? I thought, won the Sir Barton by 7.5 lengths. Now, what did he beat in there? Probably a bunch of tomato cans, as Caleb likes to call them. But won that race impressively, and is coming here. And you have 2 speed horses, and you're just not going to get a pace meltdown with 2 speed horses. You usually get a duel. One of these horses is going to hang on. And who knows, right? Maybe Mike Smith decides, hey, I'm going to take back, and they're gonna play Catch Me If You Can with Crudo. So I really think that I'm going to use the 2 speed horses here in Rodriguez and Crudo, and then I'm going to use Journalism, because I think Journalism is flat out the best horse, the best 3-year-old right now. And like I'm kind of upset. Well, I don't know if upset's the right word, but man, David Aragona, man. Just sometimes like help a brother out, man. Just like make Journalism 5-2 and put Sovereignty at 2-1. Let the public think, that it should be the other way around with the Derby winner, right? But I think he has it right here. I think Journalism should be your favorite in this spot, but yeah, that's kind of how I saw it here. Caleb, Mark, any other thoughts?
No, directionally, I kind of see the angle you're playing. Like, you get the best closer and the 2 speeds. Rodriguez, I understand the commitment to the brand, but I hate a horse that's not pointed to a race. It's been a big race. Clearly this horse was supposed to run the Derby, missed some time, was supposed to go in the Preakness, missed some time. There's missed works all over the place. They shipped him to Santa Anita for 2 works, now shipped him back to New York. It's just a lot to ask of this horse to fire a good race after all of these unplanned changes. And Baffert is a very meticulous trainer, so you can't think he's happy in this horse. It'd be hard to think this horse is sitting on a top effort after all that. Crudo didn't have as many disruptions, but I'm sure the plan going into the Sir Barton on Preakness card was not to run back 3 weeks later in the Belmont. Clearly the horse kind of dragged them here to make this decision, or maybe the owners pushed it. Between Rodriguez and Crudo, I would actually prefer Crudo, but I don't know that I have a ton of confidence in either one of those, maybe. But yeah, like I said, I think this is it's not a deep field per se, but I do think that buys Sovereignty, and then
I think we got that. Can you make sense of that, Mark?
Yeah, I totally got that. That was great. Yeah,
that's all right. You like cut out for like 10 seconds there, Caleb, but I think we understood most of what you said.
Fair enough.
49 is fun. Saying Mott skipped the Preakness because he wanted to do right by the horse. He says what's probably right is not strapping a guy with a whip in his hand, tired of that hypocritical line. Yeah, I like it. It was interesting, right? It was interesting with the Preakness, right? Because like I didn't think it was as huge of a deal as people made it out to be, right? If he doesn't want to run the horse back in 2 weeks, he doesn't have to, right? Whatever. What was really interesting to me was I listened to a lot of gambling podcasts, Vegas related stuff, like craps players, and just like a bunch of different stuff. And on 2 podcasts in the same week, they both were like, "Hey, we didn't talk about the Preakness," and they're like, "Yeah, we don't care." I like both of the podcasts separately said, "Yeah, they didn't. The Derby runner didn't run, so there was no reason to watch the Preakness. Stop. That was it. That was their thought." And I was like, "Huh." I didn't realize that held that much sway with the casual bettor. So I mean, the Triple Crown really still holds that much that much weight. I mean, one of them suggested the old stretch it out and do the holiday weekends. Do do Preakness Memorial Day and then do 4th of July weekend for the Belmont, which I know people on Twitter have floated occasionally, and there's all kinds of stuff, and we don't have to debate the Triple Crown stuff now. But I thought that was really interesting that on the casual side that there was that much of the interest in the Preakness really landed on whether or not the Kentucky Derby winner was running back. So I thought that was a little interesting.
I think if you look at the Preakness, probably the past 20 years, it's lost any semblance of luster that it had at any point in time. Of the three legs, nobody cares about the Preakness. The only time you pay attention to the Preakness is if there's a Triple Crown winner running it. I think for the general public, or there's a Triple Crown that could become, the Derby winner runs back, right? Nobody cares about it. It's not a sire. Doesn't make stallions. It's not a race that I mean, I realize occasionally you'll have somebody who lives in the area and they would really love their horse to win it or something. But for the most part, that's a real rarity. And I think if you're looking at from a breeding standpoint or from prestige standpoint, people, they want to win the Derby. Belmont has a lot more prestige, but I think you see people pointing saying, hey, I'd much rather win a Travers. I'd much rather win the Breeders' Cup Classic. There's, maybe even the Haskell. There's a lot of races that carry a lot more, I think prestige these days. And I think the Triple Crown is still known by the general public, but I think to people who actually play horses, it's kind of, does anybody really care? Like, I don't.
Yeah. There's a couple other things here in the chat. Oh yeah, CB for you to win says I gotta play him. He already knows. It's my destiny. It's got my name on it. Road Warrior says that Rodriguez's wood was dressed up with the bias, but he doesn't think Mike even hit him once, and he still thinks highly of Grande. Road Warrior saying he did everyone a favor, right? Him winning the Triple Crown this year wouldn't have been legit. They would have had the asterisk because he can go a mile and a half in the last leg, right?
True.
And Fortnite is fun, saying Bill owes a lot to racing. He has to root against any Mott 3-year-old in the spring. He's rooting against so many people now. I'm running out of horses to bet.
Feel that for
I was gonna say, Caleb, are you in Twitch chat? Is that you?
Oh, I feel that one in my soul, buddy.
Yeah. Well, it was a good stream, guys. I think this is going to be a fun weekend. I'm sad I'm not there, but at the same time, I just there's just way too much freaking going on right now. There's no way. I'm thinking about all the freaking crap going on this weekend. I would have been in trouble if I would have gone this weekend. So it worked out, but hopefully we'll see what happens with Saratoga. The Saratoga meet, maybe we'll figure something out for then. But what are you guys' plans for the rest of the weekend?
Friday and Saturday are really long days, 14 race cards that start early and then late. So other than just going to the track and trying to make some money, I don't think I have other plans.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I mean, both of them are going to be really long days. I think the first race is at 10:30 in the morning or something crazy on Saturday. So, those are going to be really long days. I'm in a ton of tournaments. So I will be babysitting tournament plays and, kind of really focused in on that and don't have a lot of other stuff planned. We'll play it by ear if Caleb wants to do anything.
Cool. Well, that's going to do it for us. Obviously, check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Mark is at 2 Turns. Caleb's at Caleb WVU. I will, I'll talk with the guys and we'll figure out some type of ticket. We'll put it out there for some bet sharing. So just pay attention to Twitter. If for some reason you can't purchase a share and need a different way, just get in contact with me and we'll figure something out. But we'll get something together, and I'll try and get it up sometime tomorrow, because I think advanced wagering's around, so I should be able to get something in there. But yeah, have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.
12! 12! Let's go! Where's the fucking line? Come on! Yes! Yes! Yes!